I cannot believe we are already 11 days into the April challenge. I feel like this month is absolutely flying by, but I have been getting a ton of questions, so I wanted to do just like a sit down Q&A for today's video. I'm going to make this into like a little series so that these Q&A videos aren't too long, and I'm going to kind of like prescribe a certain topic to each Q&A. So the 3 questions that I'm going to be answering today are how to lose stomach fat, which is by far the most frequently asked question I get, followed by how to reduce bloating, and then lastly I'm going to be answering a few questions that I get about creatine and like GI related issues. So how do you lose stomach fat? And I've got good news and I've got bad news. I'm gonna start with the bad news just so we can go ahead and get it out of the way, and that is you unfortunately can't spot reduce, meaning you can't pinpoint a specific area of your body, for example, your stomach, and say, I want to lose fat from this area specifically. There's no supplement, no specific exercise or accessories, like for example, a sweatband, that are going to help you spot reduce. But fear not, like I said, I come bearing good news. You absolutely can lose stomach fat, but that comes with losing overall body fat. Takes a little bit of time and a little bit of patience. We do this by eating in a calorie deficit, staying hydrated, keeping our stress levels down, getting sufficient sleep, and above all else, eating in a calorie deficit, meaning that we are eating less calories throughout the day than we are burning. Now, I mentioned time and patience because this is not going to happen overnight. You're not going to start eating in your calorie deficit and spontaneously lose all of your stomach fat. Now, I know you know that, but that also means that your stomach fat might not be the first thing to start leaving the chat, if you know what I mean. I'm gonna use myself as an example. So I hold a ton of fat in my midsection, my stomach and my back area. And when I start eating in a calorie deficit and I start losing body fat, the first place that I start to shed that fat is in my thighs and in my glutes. The last place I start to see fat loss is in my midsection, which yes, can be very frustrating, but that doesn't mean that I'm not progressing in the direction that I want to move in. It just means I need to be patient with my body and let it do its thing. This really just comes down to genetics. For some of you, you might lose stomach fat fairly easily, whereas some of you might be more like me, where it's a little bit of a tougher challenge to get rid of that stomach fat. It takes a little bit more time to see that change. So stay consistent, put the effort in, and do all of those things that I listed, and you will absolutely see a decrease in overall body fat, stomach fat, and start moving in the direction that you want to move in. You truly just have to be patient and trust the process. Now let's talk about bloating. What the fuck is it? How do you get rid of it? Now I want to start this off by saying that some bloating here and there is absolutely normal, but if you're bloated on a day-to-day basis, to the point especially where it is painful or uncomfortable, that is not normal. We're gonna go over some things now to help decrease and combat your bloating the best that we can. Bloating can occur from drinking carbonated beverages or alcohol, from eating a large meal, or getting your period, or constipation and gas. So there are a lot of different factors that play into this, but the overarching theme is you can do something about it. First and foremost, we are avoiding foods that we know are going to negatively affect our gut. So if you have a specific food that you know, if I eat this, I'm gonna get bloated, maybe don't eat that food. Or if you know you have food intolerances, but you eat those foods anyways and then still wonder why you're bloated, that might be why. We also want to make sure that we are eating our fiber. The daily recommended intake of fiber for a female is 25 grams of fiber per day. We want to make sure that we are consuming prebiotics and probiotics, so basically encouraging the growth of good bacteria and the destruction of bad bacteria. Staying hydrated, being consistent, keeping your stress levels down, and getting sufficient sleep are also going to be of a huge help to make sure that we are bloating as little as possible. And kind of on the same subject, we are going to veer into supplementation, specifically creatine, because a lot of you have said that you take creatine, but it causes a lot of bloating. Now, this is semi-normal to happen because creatine is a GI irritant, which means that some of the side effects can cause bloating, nausea, constipation, diarrhea. The biggest factor that is going to cause bloating when taking creatine is doing a loading phase. Loading phases are cool, but they're definitely not necessary, especially if you know that you have GI issues already or you have experienced GI issues due to loading phases in the past. A loading phase is basically consuming 20 to 25 grams of creatine every day for 7 days before dropping down to the maintenance phase where you're consuming 5 grams of creatine per day. The purpose of doing this is to saturate your creatine stores in your body within that first 7 days so that once you get to the maintenance phase, you already are pretty much loaded up with creatine as much as you possibly can be, and then just maintaining that as you continue to supplement that creatine. So a great way to avoid bloating altogether in that initial few days of taking creatine is just not doing a loading phase and starting with 5 grams of creatine per day. And this will take about 4 weeks to get to that full creatine saturation, but that's okay. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So that is the tea for today. If you have any questions that you want me to answer in future Q&As, please go ahead and leave it down in the comment section. But thank you for chatting with me. You know, like, subscribe, you know the drill. I will see you tomorrow.